Lunchly is a new product created by MrBeast, KSI, and Logan Paul, and there's some pros to it, I think, but also what it seems to be some negative aspects.
Oh, hi, Mark.
What's up, Freccero fam? Welcome back to my channel, where I like to experience everything that life has to offer. Now, in case you didn't know, like I said in the intro, KSI, Logan Paul, and MrBeast just released a new product, and to word it in one sentence, it's basically a competitor or alternative to Lunchables. And this has already been getting a lot of mixed reviews. This has already been getting a lot of news attention and media attention, and I hate to say it, most of it being negative. And in some ways, I kind of agree with the negative viewpoints. In other ways, I don't. I always like to be transparent in all my videos, and I think more than that, always try to look at both sides of the situation. Where I'm like, okay, are people just complaining about this to complain and create clickbaity videos? Or is there some actually valid reasoning and logic to the claims they are making? With that being said, let's get right into it in terms of what is Lunchly, the ingredients, the nutritional value, is it morally good or bad, and more. First off, like I said, Lunchly is a Lunchables alternative. That's the best way to think of it. And I was thinking about this when looking at what Logan Paul said about it and MrBeast and KSI, is that if you think about it, Lunchables do kind of have a very unique corner in the market, and there isn't really an alternative. With Lunchables, it's a quick meal on the go. You can grab the box, bring it anywhere. All it needs to do is be refrigerated. Does not need to be microwaved to be able to eat it. I feel like when it comes to Lunchables, if I had to think of an alternative, I really can't think of one. Like Kid Cuisine popped into my head, but I'm like, no. I feel like Kid Cuisine's more of a TV dinner, right? And it's more in the TV dinner market. And as a side note, I want to say this. Me and my brother used to be obsessed with Kid Cuisine. And there was one time, I do have some beef with Kid Cuisine, where if you got, I think it was like 20 like UPC codes from the box, if you cut it out and you got 20 of them, you got like a ball. You know when you were younger and you don't really understand economics? I remember my dad got like 20 Kid Cuisines over the course of like a month or two. And I was so excited about this ball that was realistically probably worth like $5. And we sent all these, codes in or whatever, or coupons or whatever it was from Kid Cuisine to get that ball. Never got it. Still have some beef with Kid Cuisine. I still want my Kid Cuisine ball. But anyway, you can kind of see the business perspective and the mindset of saying, hey, there's not really a Lunchables alternative. Let's do it on our own. Now, here's the site of Lunchly. First off, look at the font, the way this is kind of being presented, because this is something I will talk about later in the video, and that is, this is, of course, towards children. That is, I think, the big elephant in the room that I'm going to address later. That is why a lot of creators are taking a negative approach on this, and I'll talk about that a bit later in this video. Now, when it comes to Lunchables, right now, this is the exact time of this video, we have 3 different options. We have the Fiesta Nachos, Turkey Stack'ems, and quote-unquote the pizza. I am kind of curious why they put that in quotation marks. The only thing I can think of is when I think about Lunchables, the first Lunchables item I think of is those mini pizzas that you make. So maybe that's why they're saying like the pizza. But if you look at this, it is, I hate to say it, a true direct copycat, I hate to say it, of Lunchables, right? The nachos, the kind of Turkey Stack'ems, basically cheese and crackers to an extent, and then the pizza. With that being said, let's look at the nutritional facts. Now, I went to the store yesterday, took a picture of Lunchables, the pizza with pepperoni, so pretty much the same alternative to the pizza from Lunchly. And here is, as you can see, a side-by-side comparison of the nutritional facts from Lunchables on the left versus Lunchly on the right. And you can see first off that there's 30 more calories in Lunchables than Lunchly. In addition, there's 3 grams more of fat and there's 0.5 grams of trans fat in Lunchables versus no trans fat in Lunchly. In terms of sodium, let's jump down to that. About the same, a little bit higher in Lunchly though. And then when it comes to carbs, about the same. However, in Lunchables, you're talking about 20 grams of sugar versus only 12 in Lunchly. About the same amount of protein, although Lunchables does have a little more protein. So at first glance, it does seem, based off the macronutrients or macros, that Lunchly does seem to be a better alternative. In addition, this is the ingredient list when it comes to the pizza on Lunchly. I'm going to be honest. I am pretty well versed and experienced in health, fitness, nutrition, and supplementation, but I'm not an expert. When it comes to these specific ingredients and the technical aspects of each one, and if it's actually good for you or not. I know there's a bunch of other YouTube videos about this from experts who are way smarter in the whole biochemistry realm and nutrition realm than I am. So I feel like it's not my place to really comment if I think the ingredients are good or bad. But there has been some controversy saying, okay, are these ingredients actually good or actually bad? And one last point I want to talk about when it comes to nutrition is this tweet from MrBeast, which this is the first tweet he's had since all the allegations that have happened with Dog Pack and all this kind of fraud stuff and illegal lotteries. This is the first tweet he's had since then. So it's kind of interesting that he's not said anything until this, right? But he said, Lunchables sells hundreds of millions of units and countless people eat it. Our goal is to provide a better alternative for you. Our turkey meal, for example, is 80 less calories, 60% less sugar, more electrolytes, and we use real cheese. They use quote-unquote cheese product. They can't even call it cheese. We use higher quality meat, etc. Obviously, eating fresh chicken and broccoli is healthier. But if someone's going to eat a pre-made meal like this, which millions of people do through Lunchables, then I think giving them a higher quality version at roughly the same price is a net good in my opinion. And that's why we launched Lunchly. Also, as we get the economics of scale and can get things cheaper, we will only be improving the product more and more. So that all being said, in terms of what is Lunchly, in terms of the nutritional facts, in terms of how does it look, what is my honest thoughts about it? And I feel very mixed. On one end, I kind of see where MrBeast is coming from in the sense, if I have to look at both sides, and I think it's always important to do, if you're going to be going out and buying Lunchables anyway, so you're going to be buying it no matter what. Now, a lot of people do. Remember, this is geared towards children, which is the big thing I'm going to talk about when it comes to the negative aspects. If you're going to be going out and buying Lunchables anyway, why not have a better alternative? Why not have a healthier alternative that is about the same price? I kind of see that logic, that they're saying, hey, for years now, for decades even, Lunchables has been really the only product in this specific niche. Like I said, this like on the go, quickly grab a full meal with like a drink, a main entree, and like a snack or a side. It has really been the only product in this particular niche. Why not disrupt that niche, of course, because you don't want to have a monopoly over it, which maybe they kind of do. I guess you could argue that. And I do see that logic. Try to take something that's existed for a while and then improve upon it, right? I get that. In addition, I guess from a branding perspective, you're talking about Prime, which has been crushing it, whether you love it or hate it, has been crushing it. And then Feastables, which of course has been crushing it as well. While that all seems good and great, let's talk about the moral aspects. This is, like I said, the big elephant in the room I've touched upon, and that is, this is definitely marketed towards kids, right? Lunchables are made for kids. Lunchly is made for kids. Don't get me wrong. There are some adults who consume Lunchables. There are some adults who consume Lunchly. I remember last year, for example, I was at the store and they had a deal on Lunchables, the pizza one, that was like 2 for $1. And I'm like, you know what? I haven't had these in a while. I can't pass up a deal like that. 2 for $1. I'm not gonna lie, they slapped. Anyway, though, I was definitely in the minority, not when it comes to sales per se, but when it comes to who's consuming it. And I think that is the big issue. There have been complaints, for example, about Prime when it comes to having PFAs. And even though parents are going to be the main ones buying it, kids are going to be the main ones consuming it. And we look at both sides of this. On one end, I think MrBeast, KSI, and Logan Paul, whether they're just saying it to say it or whether they mean it, and maybe it's a combination of two, their argument is like, well, if kids are going to be consuming Lunchables anyway, they're going to be consuming Lunchables anyway, why not give them a healthier alternative? There is a point to be made that if Lunchly is truly better than Lunchables from a health and nutrition perspective, there is a point, I think, to an extent that if that is true, okay, I can see that argument. On the other end, though, the issue is KSI, Logan Paul, and MrBeast are geniuses when it comes to analytics and demographics. And they know their biggest market is kids. And as we all know, kids are very susceptible to trends, social media stuff, especially right now. I mean, you look at the South Park episode about Logan Paul's drink Prime. In the episode, they called it Cred. That episode is hilarious, by the way. I thought that was a hilarious episode. And they also, in a very classic South Park way, addressed a lot of the tricky things that come about when an influencer or a big figure like Logan Paul releases a product. A lot of kids can be susceptible to being like, oh shoot, I have to have Prime now, or I have to have Lunchly. Like, let's say a kid typically doesn't have Lunchables and their parents make them a lunch. And now every kid around them is having Lunchly and they're now pressuring their parents to have to buy Lunchly because they don't want to seem left out. They don't want to seem, like they're a loser. They almost feel socially pressured, which is kind of interesting to say, but I think it is going to happen. They might even feel socially pressured, being like, shoot, if I'm not eating Lunchly, I'm not cool. And that's why a lot of creators who've spoken out against this, so you're almost being predatory towards kids, or you're taking advantage of kids. Now, the price of Lunchly, it seems like, is about $4. So if you think about it, if you're a parent that, like, say, is struggling, you're talking about 4 times, like, say, 5 is 20, times, like, say, 4 weeks out of the month is 80. You're talking about $80 a month you're going to have to spend for Lunchly if you're going to be buying it for every day if you're a kid, Monday through Friday when they go to school. On the other end, of, like, so you can make a lunch for them that's going to be way cheaper. And I can see some parents saying, shoot, this is too expensive. And to some parents, they may say, hey, sorry, I can't afford this. And I can see some concern that a lot of creators have brought up that kids are so susceptible to this kind of stuff that they might say, hey, mom and dad, I need Lunchly or else I'm going to be that kid at school that no one wants to hang out with. I'm going to sit at the lunch table, similar to that South Park episode talking about Prime. Everyone around me is going to have Lunchly except me. Then again, like I do in every video, I always try to look at both sides and arguments on both sides, but also counter arguments, right, on both sides, almost like argumentception. And one thing I'll say about this, which is an interesting analogy to me, or kind of comparison, is Pokemon. Now, when I was in elementary school, that's when Pokemon took off. It was the biggest thing. It still is. Pokemon is still the biggest franchise of all time, by the way. It is bigger than Star Wars, than Disney, than Hello Kitty. And I remember when I was in school, of course, everybody had a Game Boy, and they would either pick Pokemon Red or Pokemon Blue. I was definitely a Pokemon Red guy. My brother was Pokemon Blue. And then, one day, Pokemon Yellow came out. And this was a monumental thing. It was the first game since the first 2 that got released in America. And I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to Pokemon Yellow, and yes, I am very, very experienced and genuine when it comes to Pokemon, for all my Pokemon masters out there really aren't too many differences, I'm going to be honest, between Pokemon Yellow versus Pokemon Red and Blue. Yes, there are, though. The trainers are a bit more difficult. Of course, your starter is Pikachu, which is different and follows you around. If you have a Game Boy Color, there's some colors to it. In addition, they removed the Missing No glitch. For me, in case you're curious, Missing No is my favorite Pokemon. There aren't really an aggressive amount of differences, although there are. Don't get me wrong. There are a good amount of differences, but not enough where I'm like, you have to play this game. That being said, I still remember that I got Pokemon Yellow, and a lot of my other friends did. And I remember being like, oh my god, if the new Pokemon Yellow, look, when I'm walking around, like, Pikachu follows me, like, this is crazy. And I remember one of my friends was not too well off. His family struggled a lot. And I remember his family could not afford Pokemon Yellow. They were like, hey, sorry, we got you a Game Boy. We got you Pokemon Red. Pokemon Yellow, it looks kind of like the same thing. And I let him play my Pokemon Yellow on my Game Boy because his family couldn't afford it. And I remember he felt left out. Everybody was playing Pokemon Yellow on their Game Boys, watching Pikachu walk around, talking about the colors, the fact that there was some sound effects when it comes to Pikachu saying Pika when it would come out in battle. All these different things about Pokemon Yellow. And he was the only one, or one of the only ones, that didn't have Pokemon Yellow. And I remember he felt left out. And this is what's tricky. No one really, during that time, went after Nintendo. No one said, hey, Nintendo, you're taking advantage of kids. You're taking advantage of them being young, and this is predatory because you're releasing a new Pokemon game. You're releasing a new Pokemon game that you know is going to be played by kids. This is predatory. No one said that. So it is interesting, I will say, if I try to look at both sides of this, that, like, say, when a toy company comes out with a new toy, when, like, say, Nintendo came out with Pokemon Yellow, for example, when this kind of stuff happens, no one really bats an eye. But, like, say, when an influencer does it, everyone goes crazy. And again, I can see both sides of this because, let's be honest, a lot of toy companies, video game companies, etc., do target all their marketing around kids. They do it in a very predatory way. Like, I remember watching, the Nickelodeon magazine commercials.
There were lots of ways to show you really want Nickelodeon magazine. How?
Oh, you'll think of something. Nickelodeon magazine, please.
And, like, wanting to have a subscription to Nickelodeon magazine. And when it comes to little kids, they are very susceptible. Then again, you could still say when it comes to all these influencers that they really do kind of pitch it like this is the next biggest thing. You have to have it, like what's going on with Logan Paul and Prime. But then again, I guarantee if, like, say, Gatorade came out with a new Gatorade drink, and there's all these different, like, say, like, different colors with monsters on them, I don't think people would freak out that much. Yes, it would be geared towards kids, of course, But I think if Logan Paul does it with Prime, now people are like, oh, wait, this is really bad. And that's one thing I do want to say. I also think it's because when it comes to journalism, and we all know this, yes, a lot of it is about writing a good piece, but a lot of times it's getting clicks. It's kind of unfortunate. And if you talk about Logan Paul, if you talk about MrBeast especially, you're getting a lot of hits. You are going to get a lot of traffic. Look, even what happened with PewDiePie way back in the day with the Wall Street Journal, that I hate to say it was really just a hit piece because they knew that piece, which it did, would get a lot of views and a lot of attention. So these are the things that do get really tricky, I think, when I look at both sides of this. For me, though, the reason why I am very kind of on the negative side of this, although I get the perspective of them saying, hey, it's a healthier alternative, which it might be, is the fact that you're not playing a video game. You're not playing with a toy. You're consuming something. You're putting something into your body. And if, let's say, it does have harmful chemicals, if, let's say, you're pushing kids to have to drink Prime and to have Feastables and to have the pizza, and let's say the formula is just not there, that is going to be a huge issue because they're consuming it, right? Like I talked about with the reports of PFAs, for example, in Prime. That being said, like I said earlier, if, let's say, some report comes out from a credited scientist or doctor who knows the space, and they say, hey, you know what? I actually have a PhD in biochemistry and nutrition. Lunchly is better than Lunchables. It is. Like, actually, it is better. Now, is it the best food you can have? No. But if I had to compare one versus the other, I'm going to go with Lunchly. Then I kind of see a positive argument for this, that it is a better alternative. Although, yes, there are better food alternatives in general. This is a better one. And that's the thing, is kids are very susceptible. And it reminds me of that quote that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. That, yeah, maybe their intentions are pure. I mean, I got to say, I think it's more of a business play to make more money, but you never know. Maybe their intentions are pure, that they just want to make a healthier alternative. But even though your intentions are pure, at the end of the day, you're talking about now way more kids having to have a Lunchly, which I'm going to be honest. Yes, when you compare Lunchly to Lunchables, yes, Lunchly might be better, but I still think a home-packed lunch with, like, say, an apple and a really healthy sandwich and maybe a healthy snack is going to be better than Lunchly. At least with Prime, like, I have Prime. And I do like Prime, I'll be honest. Like, so I do have Prime as an adult. But Lunchly is just made for kids. And it's targeted just for kids. With the GUI, the graphical user interface of their site, to the fonts, to the colors, to the way it's marketed, this is definitely made for kids. And I see a lot of the argument of people saying, okay, these creators have a lot of power. They have a lot of clout, and kids, for lack of better phrase, worship them. And then when you talk about them making this new product and really kind of shoving it in their face, which they're going to do in pretty much every video now, it is a tricky landscape because it's one thing to make a product that is geared towards everybody and kids might or might not be consuming it, but it's a whole other thing when you make a product that's, let's be honest, geared directly towards children.